When humanity finds something that they care about, they latch on to it. They identify with it. They say, you are my protectorate. You are the thing that gives me purpose, gives me value, gives me hope in my life. The reason why they say such things is because their will is not strong enough to find other things that could give them value without relying upon other individuals. Key example is the relationship between human beings, that we begin to seek other human beings to fill in the gaps, to give us a sense of purpose where there is none, when our sense of purpose could simply be fostered through our work, when our sense of purpose could simply be fostered through ourselves, through what we are, through what we're proud of doing. It's not that hard. Interaction may be required biologically, but certain components of that can at least be overcome in the sense of purpose. Human beings don't understand this. They're unwilling to work. They're unwilling to work to attain their goals of self-actualization, of being cool in their own eyes. And so in order to get around this, what they do is they surround themselves with people who already think they're cool, and to tell them that, because they can't tell themselves that. Human beings are weak-willed cowards. They don't have enough ambition in order to change themselves into someone that they want to look at in the mirror. And this extends all the way into relationships. That in a relationship, the first thing a human being will often say is that you're my favorite, you're someone who I love a lot. And when it finally comes to the time where their judgment is being tested, where they feel that they need to go out of their comfort zone in order to change for the person they quote unquote love the most, they decide that they didn't love them enough. That because of the change that they would have to undergo, they simply fall on the idea that their identity is being under duress, even though the idea of an identity in the first place is one of cowardice. That if you have an identity, you are simply using it to fall back on because your own will is not strong enough to lift you up. That you have to identify yourself through vague ideals, through ideals that you've created or that others have created, in order to siphon your own emotions into words, in order to put yourself within a category, a group that we all fit into, rather than simply being yourself, rather than simply building everything for yourself. You allow yourself to slot in to an idea of a person, never changing, but being that idea of a person. The place where this becomes weak is that human beings are transient, that human beings change, we all can change, and that identities themselves do not exist. The self does not exist. As I said in my one video, the self is not binding, and when it all comes down to that, if there's somebody who you really love as much as you say that you do, then the self shouldn't be binding. You should change. You should become the person who is worthy of loving them. You should change your comfort zones. You should change the paradigms within your relationships to fit what they want or who they are, in order to make the relationship work. If you can't do that, then it ends up being that you either did not have a strong enough will, were cowardly in that regard, or did not love them as much as you said you did. And in most cases, they were just saying that. They were just saying that in order to get those brain chemicals going, in order to be like, hey, yo, man, my endorphins, my oxytocin, it all going out here. You're the greatest person and so am I. It's a validation game. It's just a game of validation going back and forth, back and forth. You're so great, I'm so great. And you get those brain chemicals going, but it's never genuine. It's never real. if they're just dedicating each other to one another in order to foster that sense of validation. And then when their will is tested, when they have to change in order to stay with that other person, they often choose not to, because it turns out that that's a bit too much work for the greatest person in the world, right? A bit too much work for the person that I love almost as much as this other person, right? And so they leave you by the wayside. And that weakness, that dishonesty is one of the most disgusting things that humanity has done or creates. And we all do it. Almost all of us do it.